Kia ora, this is James. As Monty Python would say, welcome to the middle of the film. Today is June 30th, it's Thursday, weather is holding up. Welcome to the morning ramble. Walked out the door, I had something else I was going to talk about, and then completely forgot. Insects. Let's talk about bugs, or at the moment, a distinctive lack thereof. It's slightly cooler in the mornings, and we don't tend to get a lot of bugs around, which is kind of nice. But I wanted to just ramble on about insects, and not in a creepy Bill Gates artificial breast milk / eat your crickets, they're good for you, your powdered bugs type discussion, but in terms of your homestead and the type of animals or livestock that you like to raise, and the impact that may have as well. Where we are in Ohio at the moment, we're on 5 acres presently, a little over 5 acres. As we have been discussing, we're well underway in terms of, a little noisy over there this morning, some trucking stuff going on. We're well underway to moving to 16.3 acres actually in Tennessee of raw land. The property that we have here had a house on it, and we added a shed / barn style shed. Excuse the noise, I think that's some of the stuff that's happening at the moment. And we've learned as we've gone. We had plans, but we didn't really have plans. One of the things that I noticed coming from New Zealand to America, a lot more not very nice creatures to deal with, coming from a country that virtually has nothing poisonous except wasps and an indigenous spider, but certainly no snakes or anything like that. But also, while we do get things like ticks, and they're not particularly common in the general population. Flies, that's a reality. If you go to the beach, you get sand lice or sandhoppers, or whatever you want to call them. But anyway, here in rural America, we get a wide variety of other kinds of wildlife. So ticks are probably the worst. For those of you who are not familiar with them, the little blood-sucking insects that they go through a gestational cycle that involves feeding on blood, usually deer, other mammals. But if they can't get deer, then when you're roaming around in the grass like I am at the moment, one of the things you'd need to get used to is going back and doing a tick search. One of the things we have noticed in Tennessee, and one of the forum members on the Living Free in Tennessee group has brought this up as well, is seed ticks, which are tiny little ticks, and they're not a separate type of tick. They're just part of the larval cycle, but they're just little tiny. I don't even think they've actually developed all their legs, which is not a great help if you're kind of scared of bugs and spiders, I guess. But they're just little tiny ticks. So, just when you think that horrible insects could get worse, there's even more variations on them depending on where they are in the cycle. But anyway, we used to get a lot of ticks. We used to get a lot of other bugs. Like everywhere, we used to get a lot of flies. When you have pigs, you have flies. When you have sheep or any other kind of livestock, cattle and what have you, you have flies. That's just a natural thing. They're attracted to excrement and rotting meat and all those kind of things. So that's part and parcel of it. And we get various types of wasps as well. Some of them are beneficial, others not. We like the paper wasps because they're really good around the garden. But then there are other types of wasps and bugs that are not quite so good. But commonly here, at least on our property, and I'm about 99% sure that's going to be the case, especially when we move to Tennessee, which is, warmer climate and definitely a lot more insects. Livestock are going to have to factor in. And, I'll mention that by way of insects because we've got a lot of trees of shade. It's a little warmer by probably a good 5+ degrees on average where we're going. Not quite Florida temperatures, but certainly it's a little closer to tropical because it's a central southern state, I guess, or a central state in US terms. But the one thing I did notice when we were on the property last, we were there in the morning, we did our stuff. There were insects, but not anything really to be concerned about because it's cooler. When I dropped Dawn off and went back to the property, she was doing a pig processing workshop, and I was heading back to meet with the guy who's doing the excavation work and plot and scheme. The one thing that I really did notice, even just a few degrees change in temperature, was just the sheer volume of insects and flying and the whole shebang. So having creatures on your homestead to help you with that is highly beneficial. Just going to head back now and I'll talk a little bit about that. So here's our observations from a few years of doing what we've been doing on our homestead in Ohio. And just for reference, we've learned the hard way. Dawn watches a lot of videos. She's probably more into it than I am, though in the last year or so I've kind of increasingly come around to her way of thinking, I guess is the best way of putting it. But we originally started here with ideas, and it really wasn't until the lockdowns occurred that we kind of more seriously got into it. Prior to that, it was just experimentation with various things, greenhouses and gardens and small gardens, but nothing really serious. Livestock was on our list, but chickens were the entry point. And one of our reasons for getting chickens, apart from the obvious meat and eggs, was actually to help with the tick population. And we got in. Generally, our flocks have generally been no more than about a dozen birds. You get a little attrition over time from animals and things, but generally speaking, we always maintain at least a dozen birds, and then we might eat or lose one or two of those, and then we'll just replenish them. That produces us a good number of eggs, but for the area of land that we're actually on at the moment, particularly around the house, that really does keep the tick population down. I haven't had to spray or do anything. We have a lot of grass, a lot of hay. The chickens do free range. They like to roam all over the place, and they're not shy about going out and getting their food. They wouldn't really roam to the bottom of the property. That's too far for them. And honestly, that's probably a lot of energy that they're actually using up just to get there anyway. We haven't done anything with chicken tractors to transport them around. That is on our radar, but again, it comes down to time and learning and all that kind of stuff. But the one noticeable change is we really don't have a lot of issues with ticks. Does it mean that we don't have them? Absolutely we do, but it's not something that we have to religiously check for on a really hugely regular basis. In fact, the worst things that we get for ticks are the cats, which need to be treated because they roam far and wide and get into all manner of things and then bring them home, and joy to the world when you're sort of sitting there and lo and behold a tick appears crawling up your leg because one of the cats has brought it in. So that is probably the biggest ongoing battle. Might need to see if we can train our chickens to groom our cats. I don't know. Is that even a thing? Anyway, Just very quickly as a sidetrack, yesterday I think it was, I mentioned about the shelter logics and adding a tarp, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but this is a shelter logic frame, and the tarp is, it's perished basically between sheep rubbing on it and sunlight and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, if you want to keep this in good condition, the original tarp in good condition, by all means you can do that just simply by adding a tarp on top. And I can't remember what I paid for one of these. I think it was about 45 bucks. This has been on here for probably a good year. It's gone through some fairly severe winds. It obviously needs retensioning and all that kind of stuff, but highly recommended that if you get one of these shelter logics or something similar to it, because there are lots of variations, that you actually add a tarp to it. This one over here, and I'll talk about this one in another ramble, but just very quickly, this one here was a taller version of the shelter logics that we learned the hard way that the anchors that come with them are not sufficient for heavy winds, whereas this one over here and all the other smaller ones are now fully anchored down and had no issues, and winds well in excess of 70 miles an hour. So yeah, really just needed to do a little extra work on that one. But anyway, back to bugs. Insects. So ticks, yes, chickens and ticks. A really good combination. Highly recommended. We've got friends who've got guinea hens. We thought about that. We don't have a lot of trees for them to really roost in, and the ones that we do are quite close to the house, and guinea hens are really noisy. Honestly, that's probably the only real reason why. I'm okay with them, laying eggs all over the place, whatever. Excellent at sounding alarm, but we may consider guinea hens when we move to Tennessee. They will roam around a lot though, so there's probably going to be attrition rates, so they would be more of a alarm bird / maybe the occasional egg, maybe a little bit of meat, but really more of a bug control bird than anything else. At the moment we have a mix of Buff Orpingtons and Wyandottes. So yes, but our other secret weapon, and you'll hear us harp on about this a lot, are these guys. Hey, how are you? What a good boy. So muscovies, because the one thing that the chickens are not great at are really keeping fly populations under control. Doesn't mean that they won't. And I don't know if there's any breeds out there, maybe someone could leave something in the comments if they have had some experience with this with particular chicken breeds. But certainly our ones, really, they will eat them from time to time. They'll certainly eat dead ones. But flying flies, it's not something they're really attracted to, and they really don't make an effort to go and get them. So that meant, when we had chickens only, that we had a lot of flies. The house is white, it reflects heat, flies like it. No. So we have, a lot of flies around the place. When we have pigs, a lot of flies around the place. When we have sheep, a lot of flies around the place. Where there are flies like to put larvae in things, and therefore they make more flies. This is how the cycle of life goes. Muscovies like flies. They like fly larvae. They like rooting around in mud. They like rooting around in water sources. Mosquitoes are another thing too. The chickens will quite happily eat mosquitoes. Muscovies will always eat mosquitoes, but mosquitoes like water sources. We have water sources for the Muscovy ducks. They obviously will, not be particularly good from time to time. Muscovy ducks do not care. They are, as Jack Spearco puts it, little tanks. And they're really efficient at destroying stuff that happens to live in water or mud or anything they can get their beaks into and root around in. So we've noticed markedly our fly populations have just diminished to the point of I don't really care on a hot summer's day. We get some flies. We don't get as many flies inside the house because there's not many flies around, generally speaking. And on the whole, the 1-2 combination of ducks, muscovies in this case, and chickens really do a super efficient job if you let them free range of, particularly around your household, of decimating the horrible bug populations that you may have to otherwise have to deal with in different ways. Ticks in particular, flies in particular, and certainly mosquitoes, all of those. It'll remain to see how efficient this is when we get to Tennessee with higher insect populations and different varieties. Gardens are also a thing, which I'll talk about a separate time because of caterpillars and stuff that lives in gardens. And there are ways and means around that as well. But I wanted to keep this short, and we've already gone well over my target of 10-ish minutes. So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to get back in and get the dog sorted out. So yeah, kia ora. Hope you all have a great day. My thought of the day is this. When you're purchasing your livestock or planning for livestock on your property, even if it's a small number, only a handful of chickens, be prepared to let them do their thing, and be conscious that they do play an important part in the ecosystem other than the obvious meat and eggs and entertainment from time to time. They also are very, very beneficial at removing things that pests and could cause issues from a health perspective to you and yours. So take care. See you tomorrow.